Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I'm here with who is usually my sworn enemy at all these. So this is Blaine from Thirsty Bear. But today we're going to do a little something different because it is new tire day and I want to find out which PSI is the fastest. You ready to run some tests?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Alright, so we got this care package from our friends over Performance Bike. We're putting on new tires. We're entering base season. And I want to find out, because here's the thing with tire pressures, is like, you can go to these calculators. Like, I think Silica has a calculator, I think Zip has one, and you can find out what is the most efficient. There, the video's over, Blaine. That's it, we're done. But there's more to it than that, because that's like on this theoretical road with no corners or anything like that. So we're gonna go out to a course today with our new tires. Same tires on my bike, same tires on Blaine's bike. We're gonna be running the same exact power, and I want to test 100 PSI, 75 PSI, and really low, 50 PSI, and see what that feels like on this course with bad pavement, some sections of bad pavement, with corners. And I want to test how fast it is and just confirm what these websites say. But also there's this X factor that the websites won't show you, which is what happens when you approach a corner. Because I was out at Intelligentsia, we were taking corners at 30 miles an hour in the rain, and you don't want to be running like 100 PSI in that situation. But do you want to be running 50 PSI? Like, how squishy does that feel? Where's the sweet spot? That's really what I want to answer. Seems like the trend is going lower and lower PSI, but where is that sweet spot? That's what we're going to test today. And first we have to put on these tubeless tires, which is always a mess. Wish us luck. All right, we got the tires installed. It was a little bit more difficult than we thought it was going to be, but we're ready to go. We're out here at the testing ground. We're going to do 3 runs, like I said, same power, same position, except 100 PSI. We're going to do it again at 75 PSI, and then finally at a very squishy 50 PSI.
What's your typical PSI, Jeff?
That's a good question, because if you'd asked me that question even like 6 years ago, I'd have told you 23 millimeter tires at 120 PSI. It seems bananas now to think that we used to do that, because the technology's come a long way. And so nowadays, to answer your question, nowadays, I think I'm pretty like the normal crit racer. I'm running 28 millimeter tires at around 75 PSI. And I look at those calculators to get that idea. But more and more, I've noticed the World Tour riders and then my fellow crit racers, my competition, are running higher volume, lower pressure. The trend is continuing to go that direction. So I see guys do 30 mil tires at like even like 60, 65 PSI. So I want to find out if I'm doing it wrong. I want to find out if you guys are doing it wrong. That's the point of this test. So where is that line? Like, is 50 going to be too squishy? I think so. And I think that 100 is going to be like rock hard, and it's going to reminisce of 7, 8 years ago when we used to run that high. Speaking of which, we're going to start at 100 PSI. How do you feel about that, Blaine?
Feels pretty hard.
Yeah, we're going to find out what these bumpy roads feel like at 100 PSI. Let's rip it. Everything was chattering on my bike. One thing I kept thinking about when I was out there is, dude, we used to run 120 PSI. Can you believe it?
It hurts.
100, things were rattling and chattering and bouncing on my bike that I didn't know were loose. Like, my bottles were moving around, and you just really feel the road. And it's a bit counterintuitive, because you think, as a new racer, at least I did, more pressure into a smaller tire is faster. It's kind of intuitive, right? But it's not, and we've learned this over the last 10 years. That's the reason why we're going bigger, lower pressure. And the reason is because the road, like on a perfectly smooth surface, yes, high pressure, low volume is the way to go. That's the reason why track racers are up at like ungodly PSI. Are they like 160, do you know?
I don't know.
It's like 100, it's crazy. Friend of me, Brian, comment down below, please. I think it's 160 PSI, which is, but they're like on wood tracks, so it's perfectly smooth. On the parts of the course that were smooth, the repaved section, 100 felt great, felt smooth. But anytime there is any amount of asphalt or bumps or potholes or anything, it was like, please get me off this bike. My crotch was like, please get me off this bike as quickly as possible. So I'm excited to bring the pressure down. I'm sure you are too, Blaine.
I am.
Let's go down to 75. That'll feel more like home. All right, just finished the second run at 75 PSI. And honestly, not much to say. That's what I normally run. It's a bit higher than what I normally run. I'm usually at around 70, sometimes 75. But felt good, felt fast, felt comfortable. I don't actually know if it's faster though, so hang in there, we're gonna find out. But first, we gotta let out another 25 PSI and do 50 for the last run. Pretty excited to see what this feels like. Hang in there. All right, fresh off the last run, and I have strong opinions about 50 PSI, you guys. If it's anywhere close in performance to 75 PSI, which is what I normally run, 70, 75, like I'm doing it. It was so comfortable, it felt so good. As long as the performance is close, that's what we're gonna do, we're gonna send it. Is what I was thinking until that final right-hander at the bottom of the hill, and I was like, oh yeah, cornering. 250 watts on this course is fast enough, but it's not 350 watts going 35 miles an hour into the final corner of a crit. I felt in that last corner the tires start to just get a little squish, a little deflection, and I instinctively backed off. Now, I'm not saying I was anywhere close to like the limits of my equipment, but I was like, that's right, like there are consequences to running this low of pressure. But I'm curious to see what the performance is like in terms of how fast we went, because I think it is a viable option for everything except race day. A race day, I'm gonna have to go up a little bit more, even if performance is the same, just because of that squish in that final corner gave me the heebie-jeebies. Like I would not wanna come smashing through a final corner in a crit at 50 PSI. 70 on the other hand felt great, and maybe there's some middle ground, but here's the thing. The base season is long, and I'm not taking corners at a super high rate of speed. So before we even dive into the results, which you're gonna get to in a second, I would say that the sweet spot is probably lower than what I've been running, which is mind-blowing for me, kind of an old schooler who came from 23 mil tires at 120 PSI. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying, let's get Blaine's take. He's about to finish, and then let's dive into results. All right, big dog, 50 PSI.
Felt great out here, actually. Didn't feel too squishy.
How are the corners?
They felt pretty good. Really, we just had the one screecher through there.
Yeah, the right-hander at the bottom of the hill.
Felt probably best on 75. 100 actually felt like the tires were slipping.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Like you're on marbles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a pretty slick feeling. 50 felt pretty solid through there. Maybe a little bit squishy, just something to get used to. 75 felt pretty solid.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm excited to see results. Should we go check results?
Let's go check them out.
All right, guys, we're back in front of the computer. We have results to look at, and this is gonna blow your mind. I want you to check this out. Okay, here's my ride from the day. Let's first check out number 1 here. This is a 15-minute, 10-second run at 100 PSI, 253 watts. Keep those numbers in mind because we took 25 PSI out. This is now it's at 75 PSI, 1510, 253. 1510, 253, 1510, 253. Literally the exact same between 100 and 75. So now let's head over to 50 PSI, 254 watts, 1511. Different, but not really. Pretty much the exact same. I could not believe this, you guys. In fact, I had to ask Blaine for his data, and I have that here. So let's check that out. Blaine's first run was 1526, 248 watts. That is at 100 PSI. And then he let out 25, now 1510 at 247 watts. So he actually got faster going from 100 to 75. But let's check out 50 PSI because it gets even crazier. 1512 at 248 watts. Again, 50 and 75 are essentially the same between both my runs and Blaine's runs. My mind is blown, you guys. Like, this was completely different than I expected. I was thinking 100 was going to be more uncomfortable, but more efficient. So why don't we all just run 50? Well, a couple of things. First of all, you can't do any of this with tubes. This is only for tubeless. If you are running tubes, you are going to pinch flat right away. And secondly, yes, 50 is more comfortable, without question. But I felt that squish factor in the corner I was not comfortable with. So I know for me, 50 PSI is too low. I know that there isn't a performance penalty going that low, but there's a comfort penalty when you're going through a corner. You could what's called burp your tire, and it could be catastrophic. So you don't want that. I know my sweet spot is going to be somewhere between 50 and 75 because I usually run 75. I know that's comfortable for me. I'm going to slowly lower it until I feel like there's a happy spot. I imagine it's going to be probably 60, 65. I don't get that squish, but I get the comfort and I get the better ride feel, the better ride quality. So what I suggest for you guys is you do the same. Start where you're normally at, assuming it's higher than, 50 or 60 PSI, and slowly chip away at it. The last thing you want to do is go from, 80 PSI or 90 PSI, whatever you're normally running, and drop it all the way down to 50 because that's not a good idea for a lot of reasons. You could end up crashing. I don't want you guys to do that. Slowly lower it, 5 PSI per ride, something like that. Do a ride that you normally do, a descent that you normally do, you're very comfortable with, and kind of just see what that feeling is like in the corners. Now we know there's no performance penalty. I cannot believe it. So thanks for hanging in there, guys. And hey, if you like this type of content, get subscribed. It's totally free. It means a lot. It really helps support the channel. And let me know down in the comments if you guys want to see something different, a new test for the next video. I absolutely love doing these. So as always, catch you guys in the next one.